welcome back to the 6 steps of GIS problem solving, or how you do GIS. We were just talking about step 1 and also step 0, and really how you distinguish between having just a topic and then having a very crisp, clear, and actionable question to answer or problem to solve, which is the conclusion of step 1. I know we spent a pretty fair amount of time talking about the difference between those two, but I did that because it is so fundamental and extremely important that really, if you do not have a crisp, clear, and actionable question or problem by the time you leave step 1, your GIS project is really just not going to happen. You're setting yourself up for frustration. So now that you've got that, now we're ready to move on to the rest of the steps. Step 2 is to design the complete methodology for answering the question or solving the problem. So I realize that to some of you taking this course, this step 2 sounds like an extremely big step. It sounds like a very big hurdle to cross. And in fact it is. So how can you sit down and design a methodology? Well, you should if you're going through different GIS classes, and I know that if you're going through GIS classes with me, especially those intermediate and advanced courses that are specifically about spatial problem solving, that this is what's practiced. That being able to take some type of question or problem and then designing a GIS methodology to answer that question is what I have my students practice in my geospatial problem solving class over and over and over again for an entire semester, ranging from very simple problems early on in the semester to much more complex problems involving lots of different tools and lots of different operations toward the end of the semester. So if you're in this course and you are brand new to geographic information systems, then what you're going to have to do is take different courses in GIS where you practice problem solving, where you practice design, and you're introduced to different operations, different tools, one by one, get to know them, get to understand them, get to know what kinds of results they produce, get to know what sequences the different operations should be performed in order to achieve some kind of result. This kind of knowledge about how to design a complete GIS methodology only comes through doing it, through practicing the techniques, through exposure to the different kinds of things that GIS can do and how it can do them. But I really want to point out that at this point you're not sitting in the computer lab. This is not a computer lab step. Just as step 1 and step 0 were not steps where you had to be sitting in a computer lab to complete that, because you can be thinking about your topic, you can be developing your topic as you discuss it with different people, working in an office or at home or wherever, and then also step 1, working to really sharpen that topic into a good question that's actionable. Just as you don't have to be, and probably should not be, sitting in front of a computer screen when you're trying to work on those sorts of things, it's also the case with step 2 that this is not something that's sitting in a computer lab. Lots and lots of people think that in order to do GIS, it's all about sitting right in front of a computer screen with some GIS software package up where you're just clicking buttons and doing something. That's not true. So we haven't even gotten to the computer lab yet. When you're designing your complete methodology, then you're doing this outside of the computer lab. I tell all of my students to do this in a flowchart fashion. That can be designed in a coffee shop. I tell my students you can go down to a coffee shop, take a notebook with you, take a pencil with you, you can grab a coffee, sit there in the corner, enjoy yourself, relax, pull out the notebook, and then start drawing out the methodology. Start really thinking about exactly how you're going to execute that project. Not in the computer lab. You want to design a flowchart that tells you exactly what operation, in what order you're going to need to accomplish in order to go from the beginning to the final answer. Now, all of those operations, as I said, you get to know them in other GIS classes. That's their purpose. I design my GIS courses to give exposure to the different operations so that people will know what they do so they can design these kinds of methodologies. I tell all of my students to create a flowchart like that. So when they come in to my office and they say, I'm having a problem executing my GIS project, I say, I want to see at the top of a page the very crisp, clear problem or question from step 1, and then I want to see a diagram that tells me what kind of procedure they want to execute. Because of this, It is the case that most all of the time that when a student is having a problem with a GIS project, I don't actually have to go and sit in the computer lab with them and look at a computer screen, because I say, bring me your crisp, clear question or problem, and then also the methodology that you have designed in order to complete it. And sometimes that methodology is hard, particularly when you're learning how would you go about constructing methodology. But most every time I need to help a student with a GIS project, it's because they have not constructed this methodology and need some assistance with it. So if they come in, I will sit down with them not in the computer lab, but with their sheet of paper, with their notebook, with pens in hand, maybe a few different color pens and pencils and so forth, so that we can work out exactly what needs to happen in order to solve the problem or answer the question. And then from there, it really is the case 9 times out of 10 or more frequently that if the student leaves my office with this crisp, clear question or problem at the top of their page, and then a flowchart diagram that goes through all of the operations that are necessary to solve the problem or answer the question, then they can go to the computer lab and they'll be able to execute it. After that, it's easy. This is really the hard part, sitting down and designing the methodology, because you have to know GIS operations, which are covered in your other GIS courses, but then sitting down and knowing how to chain them through. This is really the value in GIS, and it's not done in a computer lab. Because most anyone, lots and lots of people, are going to be able to execute a procedure if you give it to them in flowchart fashion. Say, this is exactly what I need done. This is exactly how we're going to answer this question or solve this problem. Do this in the flowchart. The real value, the people who can really do GIS, the people who are really leading projects, the people who are your project managers and so forth, they are the ones who really can sit down with that pen and paper and draw out a flowchart of all of the procedures that need to be executed and in what order in order to solve the problem or answer the question. Then other people who have maybe more technical skills with just a particular software package can take the procedure and then go to the computer lab, execute the procedure, and come up with whatever result it gives. That's not the hard part. The hard part, the real value in GIS, is this step 2, being able to design the methodology, and it's not done in a computer lab. So if you want to be a person who can do GIS, if you really want to be an in-demand individual, where do you need to focus? You actually probably don't need to focus on learning every little button of a particular software package. You need to focus on being able to design these methodologies. If you can do that, you will be a high-demand individual and you will be able to complete your GIS projects, because you will be able to envision all of the processes that must be gone through in order to answer the question or solve the problem. That's really the core of doing GIS. Before I conclude this subject, however, I want to give you a very important note on methodology. If you remember back in step 1 when we were talking about the geographic triad, I put a little asterisk by methodology. And I said there's something special about it that makes it a little bit different from theme and location when you're designing your topic. Well, I want to explain that now, here when we're talking about designing your methodology. And the important point is this. If you get to this step and you're trying to do a GIS project, but you find that the methodology does not fit the question or the problem, then what I want you to do is change the methodology. Let me say that again. If you get to this step and you thought you were doing a GIS problem, but you cannot create a methodology to get to your answer or solve your problem, then I want you to change your methodology. You may realize at this point that you've actually got a remote sensing project, or you've actually got a geostatistics project, or you've actually got a quantitative methods project. You might do this. I realize that in some situations and in some circumstances, you have to construct a project that is a GIS project. If you're in a GIS class, well, then you have to do a GIS project, obviously, to demonstrate proficiency in that methodology. But once you're out in the real world and you have questions to answer, you have problems to solve, What's important is that you answer those questions and solve those problems regardless of the methodology that you use. Also, I know that some people who come in to study at a university in a geography department say they specifically want to come in to study GIS. They're coming in to become experts in the methodology of using computer systems to solve geographic problems. But I would still recommend anytime you're out in the real world, you want to use the correct methodology to solve the question, answer the problem. You don't want to have your questions and problems dictated by the methodology that you use. Go ahead and find the questions you're interested in, the problems you want to solve, and then employ the correct methodology. This does mean when you're in a GIS class and you're being introduced to different operations and what they do and what kind of results they give, you're learning what a GIS system can do, what kinds of problems it can solve, what kinds of questions it can answer, but you're also learning, equally importantly, what it cannot do, what kinds of questions it's not good at answering, what kinds of problems it's not good at solving. So if you're a GIS specialist, you should be able to, if somebody comes in with a particular question or problem and say, I need to find out this, it very well might be the case that they come and they actually don't have a GIS problem. They've got a problem or question that are better solved by other methodologies. This also means that even if you consider yourself a GIS specialist, you do not want to get sort of methodological tunnel vision. Oh, I'm just doing GIS, and so I see everything through a GIS sort of lens. You want to take courses in all of the other methods that we have in geography for solving problems and answering questions, even if you just sort of keep them in your back pocket, so that you will realize and you will know what kinds of questions and problems they're good at answering and what they are good at solving. I've certainly done that. For instance, I don't use a whole lot of statistics. That's not my primary methodology. But I've taken classes in statistics and geostatistics so that I know what kinds of questions geostatistics are really good at answering. So if I encounter a question like that, I can think, oh, no, wait, I think that's a geostatistical question, not a GIS question, for instance. Same thing with quantitative methods, remote sensing, those sorts of things. So that's really, I really want to encourage you that even if you are interested in GIS, to be broad in your methodology and at least gain exposure to lots of different methodologies so that you can recognize what are GIS problems, what are not, and what other methodologies may be more suited for. This is very, very important. Let your questions and your problems drive your methodology. Don't let your methodology drive what questions you ask or problems you solve. You want that to be the other way around. All right, so that was step 2 in our 6 steps of GIS problem solving. We will move on to step 3 in the next lesson. See you there.